Hello, my beauties. I would like to remind you that if you're interested in supporting Unspoiled, you can do so by supporting the War for the Tower podcast. If you haven't heard of it yet, the War for the Tower podcast is an actual play podcast set in the world of Stephen King's Dark Tower. I don't know how many of you have read those books. I covered them for Unspoiled with Miles, but they don't end the way many of us were hoping. And the War for the Tower aims to correct some of those errors. So, if you love the story, you wanted more, but you just didn't want more from Stephen King, check them out at warforthetower.com or search War for the Tower on your podcatcher.
This is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering Doctor Who, Season 5, Episode 2, The Beast Below. In this episode, there's a weird spaceship city that is supposed to be the UK, except Scotland wanted their own ship. And these real creepy fortune teller style judge dolls that will haunt my dreams. Welcome to Unspoiled. Welcome to the show, everybody. I am Natasha.
I'm Jamie.
So, I want to mention something that I have really noticed already this season, between last episode and this episode. The intros to the episodes, the very opening scenes feel very high impact. Like, they always try to hit the ground running, but there is something about the way they've been done the past two that I feel like is pulling the audience in a much more forceful way than they had. Does that make sense? Because we open this with like a weird sort of floating. You can't see the whale, obviously, from this shot. It's from above, and so it just looks like a floating piece of land.
Yeah,
with the British flag on it, and then the city. And they just decide to just go with that and then, like, have a little boy get killed right out of the gate. And I was just like, that is a fucking strong choice. That is a bold choice to make. I was interested. I will say it worked. They were right.
Well, he didn't get killed, so
well, that's right. True.
But we don't know that at the beginning.
Yeah,
you think he got swallowed up into, like, sent down to the incinerator or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you would. Poor fucking thing is going to be scarred for life anyway, even if you did wind up fine. So that's the way that we get, like, the start with the kids each saying, like, or they're standing in front of this thing that's telling them, well done, Ben. Good job, Mabel. Well done, Mandy. What is this supposed to just be like school? Because I don't feel like these guys are really just like explained.
These notes say that is their instructor. It's called a smiler. Mm-hmm. But then it turns into something else. But I don't know why he got a 0, what they were being tested on.
And, like, what was the intention of dropping him down there?
Well, they think that they're feeding all of the bad people or the bad students or whatever to the whale.
But what is actually happening to them?
Well, the whale won't eat the kids.
Right. But what is actually happening to them?
I don't know. They get to hang out there and
just like chill?
Hide.
And nobody notices that they're still alive?
Well, somebody does, because that guy later is like the whale won't eat the children. So they know that it's not eating the children.
But then
I don't know
for it to eat the children.
Yes.
Good God. So they know that they're not getting eaten. They intend for them to get eaten. And they use this system to decide who gets eaten.
I guess.
That is monstrous.
It's one of the few things in this episode that's not completely fleshed out. Mm-hmm. It just is.
Yeah. Let them die? I'm just going to come out hard on this one and say they deserve, as a society, to crumble and die. It's fine. They were deciding that a kid having poor performance in class was enough to get dropped into a fiery cauldron of death.
Yeah.
It's fine. We could just not continue on as a species. I don't feel like anybody's going to miss us. No big deal.
Once again, humans are terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's our intro. Like, and it's interesting the way that it goes because he's told bad boy, and there's a whole vibe of him waiting to go up to the Smiler in the first place. Like, he knows that he's going to get a bad grade today. He is trying to follow his friends onto some sort of train, subway, tram. Is it called a subway when you're in space? Is it an above way? But they tell him that he can't because he got a 0, so he's not allowed to. He has to walk back.
Yeah. This calls it a Vader. Like, is that slang for elevator?
I guess so. I do enjoy that it says mind the doors instead of mind the gap. I like that that's been sort of, So yeah, he waits for the doors to slide open again and gets on anyway. Because there's nobody around, and I guess he thought that he could get away with it. And then this little girl pops up, and she is reciting this poem, "A horse and a man, above, below, one has a plan, but both must go. Mile after mile, above, beneath, one has a smile, and one has teeth. Though the man above might say hello, expect no love from the beast below." What?
I don't know.
Okay. Moving on then.
I don't know. I've listened to it. I've tried to apply it to what we learn in this episode. I don't know how it fits in.
Okay.
Other than the beast below.
So, Smiler turns around to make his angry face, and then we see the Vader plummeting downward. And apparently this is a reaction to, the elevator recognizing that he shouldn't be on it. Right? That, sure. Is that what's happening here? That it's doing this because he was supposed to walk home and it knows somehow?
Or the Smiler knows.
Yeah. And so the floor opens up. There's flames and whatnot. The kid falls, and then the Smiler continues to turn until it's got this horrifying, angry, red-eyed face. Which just no, sir-y, Bob. Dislike. Just don't. Mm-mm. I don't like it. All right? So, no. Refuse. And then we jump to Amy, who is floating outside of the TARDIS, and the doctor is holding onto her ankle to prevent her from floating away as she looks at space.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Jamie, level with me here. If somebody told you were going to go on an adventure and you opened the doorway of this thing that they were traveling with, and you were in space, would you be excited and awed? Because I would be I would have a panic attack. I would not be excited.
I would like to say that I would be holy shit, oh my God. But really I would be hyperventilating.
Right?
How is this happening? What is going on? I don't like this. Please explain. Mm-hmm. Don't have me floating outside of your spaceship holding me with your hands. That's not sturdy enough.
I just have to trust that you're not going to, like, accidentally, like, you're not going to sneeze and suddenly all hell fucking breaks loose and I'm just floating away. Yeah. I just, like, I get that for the show, they need to be, like, enthusiastic and they need to be excited and all this, and that's fine for the show. But I just really want to be honest about the fact that I find space to be a horror show. Space is terrifying. I don't feel any need to know what's going on out there. I don't want to get near it. I don't want it near me. And as far as I am concerned, gravity exists for a reason. I will stay here. Thank you. The end. So, you know, and it's so funny because, like, when I was little, I thought I wanted to be an astronaut. I don't know why. I think I just thought floating was cool. And you know what? Granted, floating's cool. But I'll just, you know, get in a pool and just be happy with that. So, yeah, this reaction that she has here, I just could not relate. And she is, by the way, still in her robe and nightie. And she winds up being in that for the duration of the episode, which I must admit causes me to like her less than Donna. Because Donna just was so ready. She just came with the suitcases, went in and got another coat. She was like fucking on it, you know, just ready to go.
Donna was waiting. She was actively trying to find him, knowing that inside that TARDIS is a spaceship that can travel.
Sure.
Amy didn't know.
She was outside her house when he picked her up, okay?
Yeah,
but she could have asked him to wait for 3 minutes while she just went and put some jeans on.
She could have.
She could have done it, but she just hopped right on because she was desperate to get out of this wedding that evidently she does not want to be a part of.
She doesn't know if she wants to or not.
If you don't know, you don't. That's all. That's it, son. Like... And anybody out there who's listening to this who's, like, about to get married and they're kind of feeling... If you have doubts, do not do it. You have doubts for a reason. Don't do it. I promise you, you can get married later. If you discover, oh, those doubts were unfounded and everything is great. Do it later. Doesn't have to be now. But don't do this to yourselves, kids. If you have this feeling of low-key dread that it seems she has... I just fucking chill on it for a minute. Just, you know, figure it out. But she's so young. Take your time. Children of Earth. So that's that. So he is talking to her about Starship UK. It's Britain, but metal. And he's showing it to her and it's weirdly like, he's talking about that's a whole country living and laughing and shopping. And I'm like, you know, even if I hadn't just seen what I saw about this place, it looks so grim. Yeah. That him like talking about it in this way just doesn't match up with what it looks like is going on from the outside.
Yeah, like it doesn't have a like Biodome Park or anything like that one ship in Battlestar Galactica.
Oh, I forgot about that. That was a cool touch. I should cover that show.
I really want to. It's really hard to find somebody who's not seen it.
I have a couple people who haven't, but it's always like kind of like I have some lost baggage with it. I'll just say that.
I have no baggage with it, so I love that show.
Yeah, Jamie comes baggage free on most things that I have baggage on.
That's kind of true. I forgive certain things, but with Battlestar, I rewatched it recently and still had like the only issues I had were of the two. Well, really, just the one episode that is just garbage and has no point. Mm-hmm. Doesn't fit in with the rest of the entire series, but otherwise, like I really really like it. I understand people's quibbles with some of the ending, and I'm like, oh, I feel a little differently about it now, but I'm still like okay with it.
Well, it works out because each of us has tickets. You don't have any baggage. I have extra.
There you go.
So I'll just take your spot and check my bags and also bring a carry-on.
Well, I'm jealous of whoever gets to cover it with you.
So she's saying, like, can we go out and see? And he says, of course we can. Important thing, we are observers only. That's the one rule I've always stuck to in all my travels. Is he serious here? Is he really believing this as he says this? Or is he saying this ironically right now?
I think he's saying it because he wants it to be that way, knowing that it has never been that way.
He is a liar.
Yeah.
This isn't just him being like, that's the one rule I have. And you can break the rule as much as you want and still say, I have this rule. And you're still telling the truth. But he doesn't say, I have this rule. He says, this is the one rule I've stuck to. You fibber. Wash that boy's mouth out. I never get involved in the affairs of other people. Yeah, okay.
Maybe he's trying to turn over a new leaf. New face, new body, new doctor, new leaf.
Again, even if he is, he's stating this like this has been a truth that he abides by. And
she doesn't know any different.
Of course she doesn't. That's why he's lying. Jamie. Oh, yeah. Well, she doesn't know he's lying. That's how lies should work, Jamie. Right. That's why people tell them.
That's why he's able to do it. I'm going to turn over a new leaf. I'm going to be a new type of doctor. I'm going to be a new me. And she doesn't know that I used to do this stuff all the time. So from here on out, we don't interfere. And I'm not going to have somebody going, but what about that one time or that other time?
Can you imagine if I was like...
all those times.
Saying to somebody, well, I really like to abide by the rule of being non-judgmental and not criticizing or arguing about things. And I fucking said that I always stuck to that rule. I mean, we're not just talking about how he says, I don't drink coffee and he drinks coffee. Involving himself in the affairs of other beings and societies is literally his only job. That's everything that he does. And he is acting like that's just not... So this is like me being like, I don't like TV. I don't really, that's one of my rules is I don't really watch TV. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing, though, Doc? Hello?
I don't watch TV except for when I have to cover episodes for my podcast.
He doesn't say except there's no qualifiers. So then they see... on the screen, a little girl crying, and Amy is talking about how hard it must be to be all detached and cold. And all of a sudden, there he is, and he's standing next to her, the little girl on the screen, and he like waves to her to come on, and she looks around, and he's already gone. And I was just like, dude, what are you doing? You're supposed to be her guide, and you just left her there. Rude. So she comes out. Welcome to London Market. You are being monitored. And it really looks straight up like King's Cross Station kind of inside, like the skylight and everything. And it's just a kind of a weird vibe because it's like, it sort of feels like we're in a factory, but there's like, the British flag like all over the place, hanging in like, it's like bunting that you would have on like a holiday. That's like hanging from things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I also I didn't really mention that when we came in, like into the episode, we saw that different towers were labeled like Sussex and Surrey and,
I didn't notice that
and whatnot. And I thought that was really it was cool. It was weird, but I liked that. So they're looking around and he wants to know what exactly can you see that is not right. And she isn't able to figure out what he wants her to say. And he gets a glass of water from somebody and puts it on the ground. And it does not shake. And the first thing I thought was, there's no engines. Which turns out to be precisely it. But for a moment, I thought, well, maybe there's something else. Maybe like he's waiting, like, because there doesn't have to be engines that function the way I think they should function on this show. You know, there's plenty of things that I always have this problem, not just on this show, but on a lot of stuff where I'm like, am I supposed to look at this the way I should look at this if I'm like a person in this situation? Or am I supposed to look at this the way I should as a television viewer? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for example, I won't spoil, but there's a show I'm watching in which somebody figures out that they are an alcoholic. And the show sort of asserts that they have left us a lot of hints along the way that this person is an alcoholic. And maybe as viewers, we just didn't see the signs. But it wasn't that. It was simply that I was accepting this person's alcohol consumption as part of the way that TV depicts alcohol consumption. Which is to say, on television, people drink constantly. And that's not life. And if my friends drank the way people on television drink, I would be concerned. But I assumed there was no need for concern with this character because it's a TV show, and I figured that they were just having him be a big drinker as part of his personality, and that it wasn't actually something to worry about. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So my immediate thought was no engines. And then I immediately dismissed that and was like, yeah, that's not it. And kind of berated myself for even thinking it, and then was promptly irritated with myself again, because then it turned out to be exactly right. And he puts the glass down, and then she asks him why. And he says, I don't know. I think a lot. It's hard to keep track. Which honestly is the most relatable thing the doctor has ever said in his life. Oh my God. Yeah, that's right. That sounds right to me. Just, why? I don't know. It's hard to keep track. Oh my God. That feels like my life lately. I used to think I had a pretty good memory. And it's like, that thing about like walking into a room and forgetting why you're there. I mean, that's me going anywhere every day. I never know what I'm doing, guys. I swear to God, it's a little fucking freaky sometimes. But I'll like be in the middle of doing something and stop and be like, what am I doing? Oh, making marinara. Right. I have the knife in my hand. I got onions. I'm chopping. And my head is 1,000 miles away. I'm thinking about the show that I just watched. I'm thinking about what time Owen's going to come home. I'm thinking about how I have to put laundry in, that I need to take a walk. And all of a sudden, I come back to myself, and I finished chopping that onion, and part of my brain is nudging me going, okay, now what?
Do you ever do that when you're driving?
Yeah.
I always get how did I actually get here when I have no memory of actually driving here because I was so lost in thought? How was I following traffic?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's freaky. What was going on? But it was like my brain was doing something completely different, and everything else was literally on autopilot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll have I know that a lot of people avoid doing audiobooks because they lose focus. And audiobooks tend to keep my attention pretty well. But lately, because I have been listening to some that aren't as good as others, I will listen, and I'm not doing other stuff for a good 10 minutes. And then I realize that I didn't hear a word. None of it. There's somebody talking in my ear, telling me a story. And I just fucking didn't hear it. It's just amazing. Brains are really dangerous things.
Yeah. Yeah, I have lately, because basically I have a running list of things in my head, concerns, things that need to get done, things I have to do for work, what I'm going to do after I'm off the floor at work and I can do my manager stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm constantly thinking about what needs to get done by what point in the day that I've realized I'm not entirely present.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
And so I'm trying really hard now that, yes, I have things that need to get done, but I need to stop looking at the clock because I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing currently. especially at work, I need to be more present and not thinking about everything else for later. And it's a hard adjustment to make because I do just constantly have this running list of things that need attention. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to forget about.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. This is, I mean, yeah. And, okay. And then the doctor makes this weird sort of leap where he's like, police state. Do you see it? And I was like, wait, what? And he says there's a little girl crying. And she's crying out loud, but trying not to. Because she doesn't want anybody to notice, but she can't help it. Most of the time kids cry for attention. She doesn't want attention. And it's obvious she's crying, but no adults are stopping. Because they know why she's crying already. And they can't or won't do anything about it. So this is a really specific situation. And as he says that, we cut to this dude in a black robe and cowl, and he's got a key around his neck, which I guess is supposed to be like the wind-up key for the Smilers. Is that correct?
It's a good assumption. I don't think we ever learn exactly, but that makes sense.
Okay. And he calls up this dude who is in some like control room somewhere. And the guy says, "Are you sure?" And basically tells him to keep an eye on the doctor. He says, "Are you going to tell her? We're under orders to tell her." "Well done. Keep tabs on him." And then we see this guy calling a woman and telling her, and she says, "Did he do the thing?" And he confirms it. And she is sitting there with a bunch of glasses of water on the floor, staring at them. And there is a mask on the floor beside her. Real spooky white mask with like dark edging around the eyes. And she's got this big cloak on. And she says that she's going to come on out. And this lady winds up being Queen Elizabeth X. And I would like to say that she has got some killer dimples. And I am a little bit jealous of people with dimples. I'm going to say.
Same.
I like them. It's good luck.
She, you know how sometimes, like, the media or Hollywood, like, picks a person and they're, like, going to be the next big thing. Mm-hmm. They're new big deal. She was Oscar nominated for Hotel Rwanda.
Oh, that movie was really good.
I've never seen it because I thought it was going to make me too sad.
It will. Correct.
Yeah. Because I love Don Cheadle, but I couldn't bring myself to watch that because I just knew, like, it's going to upset me too much. Mm-hmm. But she's in that, and she was Oscar nominated for it, and so for a while, it seemed like she was going to be the next big thing. Mm-hmm. And then she didn't end up being the next big thing. She's done a ton of work since. She's done a lot of TV, and she's so cute.
Yeah, she's really, really pretty. And I'm surprised, like, I saw Hotel Rwanda, God, like 15 years ago now. So I did not recognize her from that at all. And I kind of was surprised, like, when I saw her, I was like, this woman is a pretty good actor, and she's very beautiful. I'm surprised that I don't see her in more stuff. I don't recognize her at all. And I guess she just kind of faded out then.
Well, not really. She just did television. So, she didn't become a movie star.
I thought that you were saying like she has done some TV, but just hasn't really done much. Okay,
she's done a lot of British TV, but she just didn't become like a mainstream star like they were talking about her at the time, like she would be. Like I looked her up today because I was doing like my notes and stuff, and I was like, "Oh right, what is her name? I want to see what else she's been in," and it's Sophie Okonedo, and when I saw her name, I was like, wait a minute. Wasn't she supposed to be, like, she disappeared. And I, like, looked up her IMDb, and she's done a ton. It just wasn't what...
Gotcha.
And it might have been her choice. Like, I don't want to play the Hollywood game. I want to do this, stay in England. And she did do Aeon Flux with Charlize Theron.
Oh, sweetie. What are you doing?
which was probably like that big Hollywood push after she was Oscar nominated. Now you're going to be in this movie with this big movie star, and it's going to make you a big star too. And maybe she was just like, this life is not for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I could definitely see that. Because, man, Hollywood sounds like a drag. So, all right, she heads out mysteriously. And then we have the moment where the doctor sends Amy off to go and follow Hannah and like ask her the details about what's going on around here. Why is she crying? What are these weird...
Mandy.
What's that?
Mandy.
Mandy?
Yeah. Her name's Mandy, not Hannah.
Oh, I'm looking at her actress name. Gotcha.
Okay.
I got the Amazon X-ray up, and I was like, I could have sworn, was there a different Hannah? Yeah, Hannah's the actress's name. Okay, cool. But yeah, she follows her, and they are at this like weird spot that's got a bunch of sort of construction warnings around it. And she is told that there is a hole there and that nobody should go through. And she's like, yeah, you know what? I think I'm going to go through. And on the one hand, I kind of respect her gumption. She got moxie, kid. And on the other hand, I'm like, you're in space. Don't go in the hole. What are you doing? Bad idea.
Well, it's Amy so far.
Right? She says,
don't do this.
Because you're not supposed to. You don't. And I was like, yeah, Amy. God. That's how it goes. Christ. I'm a rule follower, y'all. Really am.
Also, when there's like caution tape and stuff, like maybe don't cross it. Mm-hmm. It's there for a reason.
And as she's doing this, one of the Smilers' heads turns around, which that's not a good sign. And one of the girls says something about how I don't even remember what it is, but it causes Amy to turn around and be like, "Oh, I almost forgot. I'm getting married." It's kind of weird. A long time ago, tomorrow morning.
Yep.
It's a good line. So she manages to like pick the lock with a hairpin because it's an old lock for which you can do that. They are very, very far into the future, but they use skeleton keys still to lock their things, apparently.
Did we get to the point where Mandy asks or says you're Scottish and says the thing about Scotland having its own ship?
I think we did, and I blew past it.
And Amy's like, sounds about right.
Some things never change. Good for them.
Always wanting their independence, those Scottish.
So she is looking through, like, this is like a weird, like, tent situation. And when she goes in, there is this thing in there that's like and we wind up finding out that this is like a tentacle, I guess. Mm-hmm. But it looks at first like it's its own creature.
Yeah, and it also looks like it's got like a scorpion sting on its end. Like it's the tail of a scorpion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really unappealing. I do not like it. And she kind of backs out of there in a hurry. And there's a bunch of dudes standing around waiting for her. And they bash her in the face with some gas. And she passes out. And she winds up waking up in this really weird room. And they have determined, apparently by using like facial recognition technology, that she is a British citizen and therefore entitled to the information and the choice and the vote, which she winds up getting. Meanwhile, the doctor is investigating things on his own and has this look on his face like he really can't figure something out. He just seems really puzzled. And all of a sudden, this mysterious masked woman appears, and she knows who he is. Apparently, many stories have been passed down now, like this far into the future. He is a legendary man, and he is no secret anymore.
Well, she does list off later why she knows who he is, because of his history with the British monarchy.
That's true. So much for the Virgin Queen, you naughty boy.
Yeah. Just like you were knighted by Queen Victoria and then promptly exiled the Virgin Queen. He's had tea with Elizabeth II. He used to have drinks or something with Henry VII.
Yeah. He's just a busybody, man. I can't believe he was able to say that shit with a straight face earlier. Like, he just mixed up in all of this.
And then Liz, she says, I'm Liz 10. She doesn't say I'm Queen Elizabeth X. She's like, I'm Liz 10.
Oh, right.
Which, could be anything.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of just having a number for your last name. Like, oh man, then now I'm thinking about fucking George Costanza talking about the name 7 for a child. Never mind, I take it all back. I don't want to agree with George Costanza on anything.
No, it's never a good idea.
So, yeah. She tells him, your friend is safe. You're our only hope. Go and help her. And she turns to leave, and he says, how do I find you again? And she mysteriously says, I will find you. So then we cut to what's going on with poor unsuspecting Amy, who was not ready for any of this heat at all.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she wakes up in this chair in this weird room. One of the Smilers is there looking as creepy as possible. And welcome to voting cubicle 330C. It is a very, very large cubicle, by the way. This place is the size of most apartments. Please leave this installation as you would wish to find it. And they get to the part where he says, if you choose to, you will have a choice between protest or forget. If you choose to forget, or if you choose to protest, understand this. If just 1% of the population of this ship do likewise, the program will be discontinued with consequences for you all. And if you choose to accept the situation, and we hope that you will, progress and press the forget button. So, let's just talk about what it is. Because there's a weird thing here where we sort of see, like, there's the reflection of images in her mind, or in her eye.
Yeah.
And it looks like she's seeing a bunch of, like, war imagery.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. And this guy is, going on and talking about the safety of the British people, yada, 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 before starting this whole thing. And then, yeah, it's like just a lot of war. And all of a sudden, she just immediately hits the forget button. It's like there's no hesitation whatsoever. She comes out of seeing this with the immediate reaction of wanting to forget. And there's no question in her mind at all, which I found really interesting. And it seems that when she presses forget, it happens instantaneously. And a moment later, she's wiping her face and there's tears and she does not understand why or what she's doing here.
Yeah.
And then we see a video play back. Now, this I don't understand. This is her on the video. How did she record this?
I don't know.
The voting cubicle comes equipped with recording technology that you can choose to disperse. That feels like a big fucking...
Well, no, I think that there's a time gap between when she finds herself having pressed the forget button and when she actually pressed it.
Okay.
And in the interim, she recorded this video somehow telling herself to find the doctor and get him off of this ship.
Huh.
She doesn't remember doing that.
How could she have done it?
I don't know. And we don't know all of the, ins and outs of this little booth. Obviously, there's some time missing for her because she remembers, like, starting to watch the video and then suddenly seeing that she pressed forget, but she doesn't remember pressing forget.
Right.
So she forgot everything up to that point where she kind of snaps out of it.
Okay.
So there's this gap. And she defends herself later when the doctor is mad at her. And she's like, I don't remember doing it. Mm-hmm. Like, how can you be mad at me when I don't remember doing it? Mm-hmm.
But she made the choice to do it and to record this thing to tell her to get him off of the ship as soon as possible. She recorded this and chose forget with the knowledge of attempting to manipulate him. That was the whole point, I think, was that she was going to try and use the defense of not remembering. She planned to use that defense in advance.
You think?
I think so.
It's very manipulative.
Why choose forget otherwise?
Well, I think when that video, we see that there's all this war and stuff, but that's because we haven't found out yet that what it is that they're torturing a star whale.
Right.
But I think that she believed that if they stopped torturing the whale, that everybody would die. And she didn't want the doctor to have to make that decision. So if she gets him to stop investigating, he won't be put in the position where he has to choose between this creature or the entire human race.
Right.
Or the human race of Britain, because I don't quite understand how all the other countries of the world are floating if this was the last of the star whales.
Yeah, it seems like they all had other modes of power, and that by the time it was the UK's turn, there was nothing left, which I find highly suspect, because the UK doesn't exactly allow themselves to fall behind in that regard. But sure. But yeah, so I as much as I was surprised at the vehemence of the doctor's reaction when he finds out, I kind of sided with him on that. I was like, yeah, pick and forget, that was a fucked up thing to do. You kind of knew what you were doing here, in my mind. Don't let him investigate, stop him, do whatever you have to. But please get the doctor off this ship. And that was her making the choice for him that he should not know this thing. Mm-hmm. So she chooses to ignore this video and assists him with his investigation. And what is it that he says? Because he's talking about, this is what I do every day, every second, we're bringing down the government. Which I'm like, all right, well, at least you're being a little bit more honest this time. He presses the protest button, and the smiler turns into Mr. Angry Face. And the floor opens up. So evidently, the choice for protest is not going to result in, if 1% of the population agrees, we will stop this project. The choice for protest is a lie, and it's you get killed, as far as they know, because they don't know that the whale is not eating these kids. Right?
Yeah. Pretty much, the government is lying to the people. Shocking.
And let's talk about the fact that this tube goes right into the whale's mouth. That's fucked up. I guess they just drilled a hole into the roof of this whale's mouth.
Well, it wouldn't be all that surprising. They're shocking him directly into his brain.
Right, and then they eventually they just stop shocking it. But I guess they don't remove this. I guess this tube is still going to be there.
I wouldn't think about the physiology of the whale all that much. Maybe it's going into it. Maybe a star whale has a blowhole too, and it's just going into the blowhole. But I wouldn't think about it too much, because later when you see the star whale floating around, its mouth is not enclosed in something that would, be a receptacle for falling children.
Right. I will say that this sequence that I will pretty much skip, because I don't need to talk about them rolling around in vomit. So guys, this is really hard for me. I could not handle this at all. Her being all wet. Oh, you guys, you don't even understand how foul this was for me. I had a hard time. So here comes Liz 10 showing up, shakes Amy's hand, and is immediately like, oh God, ew. Lovely hair. Shame about the sick. And she has Mandy with her, and nice moves on the hurl escape, which I rather liked that phrasing. So he says, whatever this is, you've chosen to forget about it. She says that she hasn't. But we find out, indeed, yes, she has. And more than once. Many, many times, in fact. And I kind of want to skip ahead to that discovery and skip over the, like, initial sort of, like, investigation. Can we just skip to them finding the brain and the doctor figuring out what's happening here? He can see that that this exposed brain is being zapped with electricity. And this is causing whatever the country essentially is built on to move. They think that this is forcing it forward. As it turns out, the whale being released from bondage causes it to move much more freely because, shocker, it's not being tortured.
Yep.
And there's this whole thing with her choice and having to either abdicate or forget. And Amy winds up smashing the abdicate button. Now, there's just so much about this that doesn't make sense to me because there's like a few seconds pass and then they're all like, oh, it's not leaving. And the reason that Amy smashed it was because she saw the way that the little like tentacles were reacting to the kids and realizing that this thing isn't like intent on harming, right?
Yeah, because Liz tells this story about the country was burning. The earth was burning. The children were screaming, crying. Mm-hmm. And in the last hope, this whale comes and they build their ship around it. Mm-hmm. And then Amy is just observing everything and puts the pieces together that the whale didn't come to save them. It came because it didn't want the children to cry. And here it is like being affectionate with these kids. Mm-hmm. And you guys have just been torturing it instead of seeing if it would just do what it wanted to, which was save you, so that these kids aren't gonna die.
Right.
It's a merciful animal, and you have been torturing it for 300 years. Mm-hmm. And so hitting abdicate was supposed to mean that it releases the star whale, and in doing that, it would destroy the ship and everyone involved, or everyone on board. But Amy realizes, well, that's probably not true either, because obviously it came with a purpose to help, and it's not going to let everybody die. That was its whole reason for coming to you in the first place. So she takes a risk.
So, first of all, if this thing wanted to leave, it's the thing they have built into this creature. I don't see how it can leave, even if it wanted to. There are pipes and tubes and systems built into its body. So that's not 100% like an option for it. They're behaving like, oh, I can't believe it's still here. It's barely been a second, by the way, before they start being like, it's not leaving. And I'm like, I don't know that it could, to be honest. And then I really hate this idea of like, it came because it was kind and it cared, and you tortured it, but it really still cares and it's going to stay anyway. I hate it so much. I really want everybody involved in this to die. Everybody. And I am not kidding. Y'all knew that you were torturing a creature, and you chose to not even live with the knowledge of it. You couldn't even justify it enough to live with the knowledge. You are bad people.
Yeah.
Straight up. You have enslaved and tortured something for hundreds of years, and you have collectively agreed that you would rather not know. Which is pretty much the fucking history of our planet and race as it is, anyway. Like, human beings just love to forget the horrible shit that we have done and act like it was so long ago, and why are you bringing up old shit? And it's like, no, it was 50 years ago. That was 100 years ago. That's not that long. But this isn't even just like the legacy of other people who made fucked up choices that you have to like kind of... These are the actual same people. This queen is the one that made these choices and set this whole thing up. Nope. Don't think so. They should have died. The entire universe is better off without a community of people who would collectively agree to remain in ignorance about something like this. And they choose it every 5 years. And they let their children disappear. They allow this system, and I'm supposed to fucking give a shit if we save them? Are you high? No!
I was more taken by them saving the whale.
What?
I mean, the whale still does what it has been doing, which is keep these people alive. But I liked that they stopped torturing, that the doctor and Amy made them stop torturing the whale.
Sure. But the doctor was like, it was, I'm going to stop torturing it by putting it out of its misery by like cutting off its feelings. I am not going to free it. It's no question in my mind. You all gave up the right to claim yourselves as human beings when you collectively decided on this system. And I like the fact that it was even a thought that, oh yeah, I'm going to leave it here. Unacceptable. No. Nope. It's just like, it's just a big allegory for the way that we are like collectively willing to just look the other way and pretend that we don't know shit every day of our lives. And to some degree, we have to, because what can we do? But in this situation, there was something to be done. And they all just decided, I guess, not to do it. Or the people who chose to protest got dropped into the mouth of this thing, which I guess did eat some of them. Because it didn't eat the kids. But it must have, like, because people are disappearing, right? Or is there just like a secret colony?
They don't go into detail.
So yeah.
I don't know. I assume that there have to be some adults who choose to protest. Or maybe not. Maybe everybody at the age of 16 doesn't want to lose their world that they live in, the only world they've known, so they choose to forget. Maybe everybody chooses to forget. But every once in a while, a little kid comes along who, like, isn't voting. The kids aren't voting to forget or not forget. They're not given that choice until they're 16. Mm-hmm. So they're just being dumped down there because they're curious or they're considered bad. I don't know.
Yeah.
There aren't a lot of episodes where they have this many holes where it's reminiscent of previous seasons. This one does have a lot of little holes that you can sort of peer through and be like, yeah, there's nothing there though. Like, you got to give me an explanation.
Yeah.
I think this whole story is built around Amy figuring this stuff out on her own and then explaining to the doctor that she sees the similarities between him and the whale, that they're both very old, very kind, and the very last of their kind.
Yeah. Okay. Weak.
I honestly think that was the main point that we needed to get to, is the doctor being mad at Amy because she made a choice for him, and then her making this choice that actually ultimately saves the whale from dying, brings like clarity to everybody. Like, you guys have been torturing this thing, but you don't have to because it volunteered itself. You didn't capture it and force it into servitude. It came to you. I think those are the points that Moffat was trying to... Actually, I don't even know if he wrote this one. I can't even blame him.
I'm going to go on record here and say that this is probably one of my least favorite episodes because I just feel like it's so deeply fucked up, everything that's coming out of this. I didn't like finding out that Amy chose to forget, and it really did feel like manipulative. She is tacitly agreeing to this whole thing as well, which I just hate, knowing that she was just going to leave and like let this continue. And as far as she knew, they were sacrificing kids, like, you know, and this whole, like, the creature came to help, and it's just so pure-hearted that even when it's freed, it stays anyway after being tortured for hundreds of years. Like, that seems like something that we're supposed to be really touched by, and instead I just find it, like, traumatizing and horrible. You know, it's just like, yeah, this thing maybe can't get away. Like, y'all are acting like you can just free it. What happens when you keep a person locked up for years and torture it for years and then just open the gates of the cage they're in and, like, walk away? They just go back out into the world and continue to live their life? No, that's not how that works. That wouldn't work for an animal either. Like, the idea that, oh, well, we gave it a chance to escape, but it stayed. You built a city into its body. Ugh, I'm disgusted. So that's my takeaway on this episode. I'm disgusted.
Well, I was going to give Moffat a pass, but he wrote it, so he gets no pass.
So I hope I got a nice comment on Patreon today from somebody who was like, I just want to say, like, I haven't really listened to any other shows that cover Doctor Who and have somebody who's actually unspoiled. And you ask a lot of questions that nobody else asks. And I'm like, I really hope that y'all can keep that energy when I have this sort of reaction. And it's not just like, oh, it's cute when she wants to know where the bathroom is on the TARDIS, but also when I'm just like, oh my God, can we stop and look at this incredibly terrible idea that we're behaving as if this is so profound and good, and like what a almost compliment Amy is paying to the Doctor by being like so kind and I'm just like, no, you guys, no, we don't get to act like this is a nice sweet thing. Like I was just disgusted. And plus talking about like the Doctor and it being so kind and the last of its kind and everything, after he had just like been like, oh yeah, I don't get involved. That's my rule. This man is in denial. Everybody in this episode just needs so much therapy is really what it comes down to. Y'all need help. Find it. There's got to be some fucking psychiatrist's offices. Maybe it's just Smilers that you're supposed to go and talk to.
Gross. I don't want to talk to a robot.
Yeah, the Smilers are really the biggest hole in this for me. I do not understand what their deal is. I don't understand these like people that are like part Smiler that are walking around. Like, what's going on there?
I think those are the ones that are called winders.
But they
still have
like the head, their heads turn around, right? Like,
I'm not sure.
Guys, I think I've tired Jamie out here.
No, I honestly didn't pay that much attention to those things. Those like creepy in a box smiling robots.
It's just so weird because like the whole first scene that's so high impact completely revolves around it. Mm-hmm. So to then not have it be paid off what they are or how this works is a bizarre choice to me. It seems like that's going to be the crux of things.
I really wonder, because there's even like, you see the crack on the side of the ship that looks like the one in her wall.
Right.
So obviously that is something that's carrying over. But I wonder if, because this is the beginning of the season and the beginning of Moffat's control of the show, if there was still a bit of a push from the BBC to have some standalone episodes or, self-contained stories that don't necessarily carry over. Mm-hmm. And if, maybe he was sort of pushed into writing something like this. We need a space story where you take Amy far into the future, kind of like what happened with Nine and Rose on her first adventure, was taking her far into the future to see the Earth or the sun implode or whatever, and ultimately has no real consequence for the rest of the series. Mm-hmm. But this is Doctor Who. We need something that reminds people, it's going to be different, because that first episode had a whole different energy from previous seasons. Mm-hmm. But it's, this might have been a concession kind of episode, because it doesn't ultimately, and this isn't really a spoiler, it doesn't really fit into the vibe of the rest of the season.
Okay.
I barely remembered it, and when I rewatched, I was like, oh, right. This is the one with the star whale. And then I was just really invested in this whale. I wanted to see the whale because I couldn't remember what it looked like. So I, on my initial rewatch, I was just waiting for the end and didn't pay that much attention to the plot. And then watching it yesterday, I paid attention, but there was nothing about it other than the doctor being mad that choice was made for him. Mm-hmm. And Amy figuring everything out. Those are the only two real things that stood out for me.
Okay.
And those are character things. So, the plot, nothing... I didn't think about how it wasn't making sense because I wasn't thinking about the plot, really.
Gotcha.
It's just humans doing something shitty again to some creature. Again. There is a thing in here that said there was a cut line that said that there were other nations' ships and that there used to be travel between them, but that Starship UK sealed off its borders several decades ago. And I thought, well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Given what they've now done in reality to that country.
I wonder why they cut that line.
Well, I mean, I don't know, because it's not like this came out during Brexit.
Yeah.
This was years ago. I think this season was 2011. So it was long before they had, terrible white supremacists running their government. Mm-hmm. But also really tracks with, it's pretty British.
Right, yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's it all makes sense. Huh. Well. All right, so yeah, the episode ends with a crack.
Yep. And, well, there was just a little crack. There was a thing where the British Prime Minister called the doctor.
Oh, I forgot about that. And he's got the fucking Dalek shadow. Guys, mm-hmm. I said what I said.
You did say what you said. I'm going to give you just a little something. Apparently, and I learned this recently, there was something in the deal that was made to bring Doctor Who back, I guess with the people who have the rights to Doctor Who, mm-hmm. that there must be Daleks. Oh,
okay. That's weird. That's a really weird stipulation to make, don't you think?
Yeah, and yes, it is. And I would ask probably Kat Slater, who seems to have the greatest wealth of knowledge when it comes to all of that kind of stuff in this show, to explain in unspoilery terms why it was necessary to have that in the contractually there needs to be Daleks.
Yeah, that's a real weird. Did they just want to keep the trademark? Because sometimes you have to reuse. They've recently released a whole line of Steamboat Willie merchandise because they just wanted to keep that imagery of Mickey Mouse under trademark and copyright. And so they had to release merch to refresh their possession of that copyright.
You would think that Disney wouldn't be capable of losing that copyright regardless.
I mean, everything like 100 years ago, they were just like, yeah, we'll have it copyrighted for 25 years. Who's going to care in 25 years? Like, shit was shockingly short, so they were not thinking in the long term. So I think probably whatever they did this time around after this release of Steamboat Willie stuff, they probably don't ever need to pull a stunt like that again. But I bet the original language was probably like just so much more short term.
Well, and there are Disney fanatics out there that would just eat that stuff up,
There are, but it was funny because like the time that I had seen them, and I also heard somebody mention this on a podcast, and they said the same thing. They came out like around Christmas time, and everything on the shelves around the Steamboat Willie stuff was trashed and like completely like just some, just had been picked over. But the Steamboat Willie shit was untouched. Nobody wanted it. It was just like kind of sad, honestly. I felt, I'm not sorry for Disney, but it was just one of those moments of just like, aw, sorry, Willie. Nobody likes you. No offense.
Sorry,
buddy.
that one time that Mickey Mouse was a steamboat captain in black and white cartoons.
So yeah. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, I don't think so. I don't have any new reviews. We don't have a bingo update. And I don't really have anything to add about the episode, so.
Okay.
I don't have anything to promote either.
I want to say hi to new patrons real quick and make a short announcement. So, first of all, welcome to DK, April Lott, Mimi Chatterjee, and Vanessa Ultimo. Welcome to the show. Oh, and also Josh Niznik. Thank you all very much for becoming patrons. Hope you've been enjoying the show. We had just restarted Breaking Dawn, so that's fun.
I thought you were going to say Breaking Bad, and I was like, wait, what?
Oh my God, no. And I want to mention that the end of the Harry Potter reread is coming up, folks. And we are going to be starting on whatever's next in March, either the first or second week. Ooh. So we still have the fundraiser going for Song of Ice and Fire, and it has stalled out. We got to 77%, and then I have not even gotten the new patrons that I just announced were compensated for by an equal number of people leaving.
Oh.
So my number of patrons has remained steady for 4 months now. I hit 700 for a time and I was real excited, and then it dropped to 680 and it has never gone back up. So
guys,
I
spread the word.
Yeah, I understand if people cannot become patrons themselves, but I would love it if people would share information about Unspoiled and try and get the word out there, because I think that folks tend to underestimate how effective that can be when you are, recommending a show in a comment section. You may not seem to get a lot of interaction on that comment, but you don't realize that there's a million people reading that comment and clicking your little tag and going to the page and whatnot. So yeah, if you can share information about the show on your Facebooks, your Reddits, if any of you are members of Reddits for topics that we're covering, Twitters, all of that, try and, get it out there so that we can see a little bit of an uptick here, because the goals for Song of Ice and Fire are time sensitive. And as Rashawn said, I recorded with her last night, she said that if we don't reach the goal, she's just going to read the books by herself because she's been wanting to. And, what I'm saying is this isn't the sort of thing that you can just sit on and then we'll come back to it eventually. This is something that if we don't reach our goal, that's it. Song of Ice and Fire with me and Rashawn isn't happening. So I just want to let everybody know that that's, the clock is ticking on that. And if you had been waiting to become a patron because we weren't close enough yet to the critical time, now is the time.
This is where you would use the little emoji of a siren.
Right.
A little police siren,
Yeah.
like alert, alert. Now's the time. You only have to do what? $5 is the minimum now?
Actually, like $5 is the minimum to get access to like exclusive stuff anymore. But if you want to become a patron at all, you can still pledge for $1. You just aren't going to get a lot of the other perks.
Okay.
It's like because I just had somebody sign up at the $2 tier. So you can sign up and just stay outside of all the tiers and you won't be getting those rewards. But,
will they be able to get a Song of Ice and Fire though?
Song of Ice and Fire.
Oh, that'll be public.
Yeah, that's not going to be patrons only.
Okay.
So,
but we need a monetary goal because you're going to share that with Rashawn.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
However much we will split it in half, and I will be giving that to her to compensate. So yeah.
If you guys are if there are people listening to this that possibly this is the one show you listen to some of the Harry Potter episodes with Rashawn so that you get a general idea of the camaraderie and the chemistry between Natasha and Rashawn, because while all of these other Unspoiled shows are fun, and I hope that people enjoy the chemistry that we have or that Natasha has with Krista or with Miles, there's something special about the ones with Rashawn. And to hear you guys talk about A Song of Ice and Fire is going to be really, really great, and I would love for it to happen. And I already pledged, so I don't want to have to pick up the slack, guys. So please do it.
Yeah, that's why, because, I could very easily be like, everybody bump your pledges, but it shouldn't be on just the people who are already loyal patrons. Share, be out there promoting, and even if you can't yourself become a patron, you may get a couple other people to do it, and that's just as good. That's how this tends to work for me. I am not somebody who is in the position to buy advertising almost ever. So everybody who has found the show, it has been via word of mouth almost exclusively. Mm-hmm. I think I bought a couple Facebook ads once way back, 7 years ago, way back in the beginning. And I'll tell you what, those did nothing. Not a thing. So I really believe that unless I was able to take out a huge campaign on certain specific websites, which cost thousands of dollars, for me, word of mouth is the way to go. And it's worked pretty well so far. You have to be patient when that's your method. But I really think sometimes people underestimate how effective that can be. And it's really lovely when I see on Twitter, somebody will be like, hey, what's a podcast that you recommend? And somebody will tag us, or somebody posted about a person sharing a particular podcast in another group and being like, has anybody listened to this? It's great. And they said that everybody in the comments was like, yeah, well, but do you listen to Unspoiled? Because it's way better and it's the same thing. And I was like, oh, guys, thank you. Bless you, all of you. Because that shit really matters, especially if you see it being shared by somebody that you trust their taste already, or they're in a community that you trust overall. It works. So yeah, that's about it. And I'm just hopeful that we reach it. But if we don't reach the goal, we'll cover something else. I don't know what. I don't really have a backup plan. But it's not there'll just be a dead spot there.
Yeah, I really want you guys to cover. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of anything else is going to feel almost a letdown from the idea of listening to you two talk about A Song of Ice and Fire. Because even if you think I've listened to podcasts about the show, I've listened to podcasts about the books, there's so much in those books, and to get your particular, especially after I listened to all of your Song of Ice and Fire stuff, your previous stuff, and you're a different person now.
Completely.
So just to hear your take on those books now, because every time I read those books, I find something new in them that I didn't pick up on before. They're just, to me, they're infinitely readable and interesting and thought-provoking, and I would just get so much joy out of you and Rashawn talking about it. So I I really, really urge people, like, get the word out there. Get your friends to donate $1 just so that we can all share in what will be totally worth it.
I second that motion, everybody. So help me out here.
I'm not a great salesperson, but trust me on this.
I have considered like mentioning it on like Westeros.org and stuff. Somebody shared a post that I made back when I first started the show. And I was like, hey, we just posted our very first episode. And I was like, oh, precious, look at me. But honestly, what?
My friend is friends with one of the writers for Watchers on the Wall, which is a big Song of Ice and Fire website. Mm-hmm. I wonder if I can find out if she'll like let me post something or write something that she can post about. I don't know how that would work, but or let you write something for their site. I don't know. I don't know what they do, but I can ask.
Yeah, like and Miles used to write for them as well.
For Watchers on the Wall?
Was it Watchers on the Wall or was it Westeros.org? I think it was Watchers on the Wall. But yeah, that's how we became friends.
Oh.
But yeah, so anyway, guys, just keep that in mind and help us out. Because I would really like to do it, but it's, like I said, it's not something that's like, oh, we didn't reach our goal, but we want to do it so bad, we're going to do it anyway. Like, we'll definitely do something else if we don't reach our goal, because this is like a very particular type of project to take on. So, yeah, if anybody's interested in that, you know what to do. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap?
Not yet. Not till I have more details.
Okay. Well, thanks, guys, for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode, even though it was mean. And we will see you next week with a new episode. Until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.